If your sales calls aren't converting, I'm about to tell you exactly why, and it's probably not what you think. It's not your price, it's not your leads, it's not your offer. It's that you are teaching on your sales calls. I know you think teaching shows value, right? Like, oh, if I give them enough value on the call, they're going to be so grateful that they're going to turn around and buy something from me. You think that if you just explain enough, if you just give enough insights, if you just share enough wisdom, they're going to see how smart you are and they're going to say yes. But here's the brutal truth. Teaching on a sales call is one of the fastest ways to kill a sale. And when I realized this and I made one simple shift, everything changed. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what that shift is. I'm going to show you why it works. I'm going to show you how to implement on your very next call so you can sell more. Let's dive in. I'm Russ Ruffino. If you're new to the channel, $100 million in high ticket sales, 6,000 clients, 12 years deep. I'm going to share what works, no promises, just the playbook. Let's go. Now, before we get into the shift, let me tell you why I'm so passionate about this. I have listened to and reviewed literally thousands of sales conversations over the years. And I can tell you the number one mistake I hear over and over and over again is trying to teach on the call. You're smart, you're talented, you know stuff. You spend 30, 40, 60 minutes giving free consulting, and then you wonder why the guy says, let me think about it. Look, I used to make this exact mistake early on in my career. I thought that the way to win a sales call was just to prove how smart I was, to prove that I'm an expert, to prove how much I know. So I would get on a call with someone who was stuck and I knew the answer right away and I would just give them the answer. I'd share the frameworks. I'd explain the concepts. I'd give them a roadmap. And by the end of the call, they're nodding, they're taking notes. They're going, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you so much. This is so great. And then I'd make the offer and they'd say, you know what? This is amazing. Let me implement some of this and I'll get back to you. Does that sound familiar? Because it happened to me over and over again. And I couldn't figure out why until I realized I was giving away a Band-Aid on the call. I was teaching them what to do and they were leaving feeling like they had it all figured out. So they didn't need me anymore. I was giving them a Band-Aid when what they really needed was a whole hospital. And that's when I made the shift. And when I did that, my close rate went up dramatically. I didn't have to change my offer or my price or my leads. So let me break down what's happening. Let me show you how to fix it. So here's what happens on most sales calls. Somebody books a call with you. They have a problem. Their business is stuck. The marriage is struggling. The health is declining, whatever it is. And you get on the call and you genuinely want to help because you're a good person and that's natural. You're a coach, you're an expert, helping is what you do. So you start sharing. You give them insights, you explain concepts, you tell them what to do. They're nodding, they're exciting, they're furiously taking notes, they're thanking you. This is so helpful. And then you make the offer. And they say, this was so amazing. Let me think about it and I'll get back to you, right? You've heard this, you've done this. This is what I call the teaching trap. And it destroys most sales than most people will ever realize. So here's why. When you teach on a sales call, you are not creating desire, you're satisfying it. You're giving them just enough information to give them a false sense of confidence. So from the prospect's perspective, yeah, they came in uncertain. They were hoping you could help. They were curious about working with you. And then you gave them all the answers. You answered all their questions and you explained everything that they need to do. And so now emotionally, their urgency disappears. They're satisfied. They leave feeling good. They leave feeling safe and in control, but it's a false sense of security. And that's the opposite of what helps them make the decision to work with you. So there's something from psychology that explains this perfectly. It's a phenomenon that's called the Zeigarnik effect. And it says that our brains remember and fixate on incomplete tasks more than completed ones. So when we have an open loop, when something feels unfinished, your brain keeps working on it, right? It stays top of mind. It creates this tension that demands resolution. But the moment that something feels complete and the loop closes, your brain lets go. It moves on. So when you're teaching on the sales call, you're closing the loop for them. You're answering their questions, you're resolving their emotional tension, and their brain says, great, I get it. I know what to do. And the urgency to take action disappears. Not because they don't like you, not because they're not grateful, but because you closed the loop that was driving them to take action. So let me put it another way. Teaching on a sales call is like being a doctor who diagnoses the problem, who writes out their entire treatment plan, and then hands it to the patient and says, hey, good luck, go figure this out. And the patient walks out thinking, great, now I know what to do. I'm gonna try this by myself. but you didn't get paid. And the patient is walking out with this totally false sense of security because they're not going to follow through. You just gave them a very rough game plan and they think they have the whole enchilada. But even if they did have everything, information is not the missing ingredient. Execution is, support is, accountability is, leadership is. So you gave away your value. You gave the guy a Band-Aid when he really needed was a whole hospital. You lost the sale, and then the prospect ends up not getting the result and not getting the transformation. Everybody loses. Now, there's a deeper reason that this happens. Most people teach on sales calls for one of two reasons. Reason number one, you're insecure and you're trying to prove yourself, right? You have doubt in yourself. And so you feel like you have to demonstrate that you're smart enough, you're qualified enough, you're worth it. So you audition for the client. You over-explain. You try to dazzle them with your expertise and earn the yes. But the moment you try to earn the yes, you give your power away. You give your authority away. You put them in the position of judging you. And of course, that kills your authority. The second reason people do this is because you are uncomfortable with tension. You see, sales calls have tension. That open loop creates tension, not just for the prospect, but for you too. They're uncertain. They're weighing a decision. There's a risk that they need to take. That tension feels uncomfortable. And so you start talking and talking and talking because you're uncomfortable too, and you just want to relieve the tension. You fill the silence with teaching, but that tension is necessary because it's in the silence that they make a decision to change. And when you just talk and talk and talk, you let the air out of the balloon. The urgency disappears, and then, the sale disappears with it. So here's the hard truth. Your prospects do not need more information. They're friggin' drowning in information. They can Google, they can watch YouTube, they can buy courses, they can ask ChatGPT, who will give them an entire game plan to fix their problem. So if information was the missing link, they'd already be done. They don't need more information. They need leadership, not lectures. And you cannot demonstrate leadership by just teaching. You demonstrate leadership by leading the conversation. And by the way, if you're realizing you've been making this mistake and you want help restructuring your calls, there's a link in the description of this video. Book a call with my team. We will show you the exact framework that we use to run high-ticket enrollment conversations with no pressure and no BS. You're going to love it. So click the link in the description of the video. Book a call with us. All right, let's keep going. So if you're not supposed to teach, what are you supposed to do? Here's the shift. Stop thinking of yourself as a teacher and start thinking of yourself as a doctor. Doctor frame. When you go to the doctor, what do? They don't walk in and just give you an anatomy lecture. They don't teach you about the cardiovascular system. They ask questions. They diagnose. They listen. Where does it hurt? Right? That's the first question they ask. How long has this been going on? What else have you tried? What happens if we don't fix this? And only after they understand your situation do they prescribe. Based on what you told me, here's what I recommend. Here's the plan. Are you ready to move forward? That's it. Diagnose, then prescribe. No proving, no lecturing, no value dumping. When you run your calls this way from a proper doctor frame, that's what we call it, everything changes. You're not trying to impress them. You are trying to understand them. You're not filling the space with random information. You're asking questions and you're listening. You're not hoping that they are going to see your value. You're demonstrating value through the quality and intelligence of the questions you're asking. And here's why that works. When you ask great questions, some really cool things happen. First of all, they feel heard. Most people have never had someone truly listen to them. And just doing that instantly creates trust. The second thing is they discover the depth of their problem. So most prospects minimize. It's not that bad. They rationalize, they pretend. But when you ask great questions, you put them face to face with reality. That's your job. And number three, you get clarity on exactly what they actually need. So now your recommendation feels specific, it feels personable, it feels inevitable. So here's some really great diagnostic questions that you can start stealing today. Walk me through your situation. What's going on? What's not working in your business right now? What's not working in your marriage right now? How long has this been a problem? What have you tried so far? Why do you think that didn't work? What's the worst part about this? What's this costing you emotionally? What's this costing you financially? If nothing changes, where are you going to be in 12 months? If this problem were solved, what would your life look like? Notice what these questions do. They're not teaching anything, but they do demonstrate expertise, because the way that a great doctor proves that they're great is not by lecturing, it's by knowing what they're talking about and asking the right questions. And when the prospect answers those questions, they are coming face to face with the reality of their situation. They're connecting emotionally to the cost. They are convincing themselves that they need help, which they do. So by the time you recommend the next step, you're not forcing anything. You're guiding them to the solution that they need. That's why we don't call it a sales call. We call it an enrollment conversation. I'm not selling, period. I am enrolling. I'm enrolling them into their dream. I'm enrolling them into the solution that they need. All right, you asked great questions, you diagnosed, now you prescribe, and this is where most people blow it because they panic and they start teaching again. So here's how prescription should sound. All right, Nick, based on what you shared with me, here's what I think is happening. And then you reflect it right back to them. You show them that you understood. You show them that you heard every word. The core issue is X. You tried Y and Z, but that didn't work because of this and this. And I think what you actually need is this. And then look, here's how we would work together. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. This is the time frame. This is the investment. Do you have any questions? That's it. I mean, really, that's it. Short, clear, calm, projects massive certainty, because nobody buys features. They buy outcomes. And you're going to hear me say that over and over again on this channel, because I think a lot of people don't understand it. Your clients don't care how many modules they get, how many bonuses they get, how many Q&A calls there are. What they care about is, are they going to get the result? And if your diagnosis was strong and your prescription was clear and it matches their model of reality, they already believe that it's going to get them the result. And if you just give them more information at that point, you're just going to kill the sale. You're just giving them more things to be confused about, more things to ask question about, more things to think about and debate about. So you keep it tight. You keep it really tight. Here's the problem. Here's the solution. Here's how much it costs to get to this outcome. And then ask for the decision. Now, look, they might have questions or concerns. Sometimes people call those objections. Usually they're not. Usually they're just questions. That's normal. But you handle them from a place of leadership, not desperation. And the frame that you need to hold the entire time is this: I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just evaluating whether this is the right fit. You see, most people do the opposite. They hope, they show up and they hope that the prospect says yes. They chase, they try to win the person's approval. And that energy kills the trust, because as humans, we can sense neediness. We can sense it. And when you flip it, now you're making a decision about whether they are worthy to work with you. And that lets you be grounded. It lets you be direct. It lets you tell the truth. And paradoxically, it makes people want you more. Because if you're selective, that means you have standards. If you have standards, that means you are valuable. And premium clients are looking for value. So let's talk about a couple of pitfalls that you need to avoid. Mistake number one: asking the questions and then not listening to the answer. All right, that sounds obvious, but I hear people do this all the time. If you're thinking about your next question while they're talking, you're not diagnosing. You're just not even paying attention to them. All right, the second mistake is diagnosing and doing a good job at that, but then teaching in the prescription, right? The prescription is not a lecture, it's a recommendation. Here's what you're gonna do. The third mistake is being afraid of the silence. We talked about this. After the price, let the silence happen. Let them process. Don't talk yourself out of the deal. Be comfortable. Sit in that silence. That's where the sale happens. The fourth mistake: collapsing your frame the second they push back. So they go, oh, that's more than I expected. You don't backpedal. Cool, tell me more. What were you expecting? Mistake number 5, not asking for the enrollment. This is massive. You have to ask, are you ready to move forward? Do you want to get started? Visa or MasterCard? Should we do this? What's your billing address? If you don't ask, you're not going to enroll. So here's the structure that you can use on your very next call. And there's a lot of detail to this that I just can't cover in one video, okay? But the first thing you're going to do is just connect and establish rapport. That's 2 minutes, human to human. It's simple. Then you spend 15 to 20 minutes diagnosing the problem. Ask really great open-ended questions. Listen. Use reflective listening. Then you prescribe. Here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I think you should do. Here's the time frame. Here's the cost. And then enroll. Ask for the decision. Answer their questions, and do it from a dominant frame, from a frame of leadership and power. And the mindset underneath all of this is you are the expert, you are the leader. They are not going to fix this problem without your help. And you get to decide whether they're somebody that you want to work with or not. Your questions demonstrate expertise. Your listening demonstrates that you care. Your prescription demonstrates leadership. And you control the frame the entire time, just like a doctor does. And that's what creates premium clients. So let me just bring this together for you. If your calls are not converting, the first thing you need to look for is, are you teaching? And are you not comfortable in the silence? Make that shift from teacher to doctor. Don't lecture, start asking great questions, start diagnosing. Don't prove your expertise, make a prescription. Don't chase, just enroll. If you do this, your close rate's gonna go up, often dramatically, without changing your offer or your price or your lead source. And if you want help implementing this, including the exact call flow, the exact question stacks, the way we handle objections, check out the link in the description of the video, book a call to talk to us, and we will show you how to run enrollment conversations the way that we do. This is something we've had to do for all 6,000 of the clients that we've ever worked with. They're not usually natural salespeople, and we have to get them selling their high ticket offers. So drop me a quick comment. What's the biggest challenge you're running into on your sales calls right now? I'm going to check out those comments. I will respond, and I would love to see your questions and be able to give you some perspective around it. All right, I'm Russ Ruffino, and I'll catch you in the next video.